Hi, this is Sel. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're currently taking a Bachelor of Science in Accountancy and you are an aspiring CPA, I know you're struggling. This video is for you. Let me share with you some practical tips on how to survive BSA. Without further ado, let's get started. Tip number 1, if possible, know who the examiner is and attend his or her classes. If the professor who teaches you the subject is the same person making the exams, then the key is to attend his or her classes. Most probably and ideally, he or she will give lessons based on the lessons he or she has taught. But are there actually instances when your professor in a particular subject is not the same person making the exam? From this point, I'd like to call them the NEPs or the non-examiner professors. Based on my experience, yes. Back in college, we had departmental exams mostly for our major subjects, aka accounting subjects. Departmental exams are those that are given to all of your batchmates and not to selected classes or students only. I know what you're thinking. In deciding whether or not you skip your NEP's classes, please consider asking yourself these questions. Is your attendance part of your grades? Are you learning from your NEPs? If your answer to both questions is yes, then I advise do not skip your NEP's classes. So what do you do aside from attending your NEP's classes knowing that another professor is actually making the exams? Here are some tips. Sit in on the examiner professor's class if possible or allowed, and borrow notes from someone who is directly taught by the examiner professor. Let me side comment, if a professor is in charge of a departmental exam, that just implies that that professor is actually great. But if a professor does not make departmental exams, that doesn't automatically mean that he or she is not great. As long as you're learning from passionate professors who are able to teach the lessons very well, not only can you survive BSA, but also you can surpass the CPA licensure exam. At this point, I think it's also worth mentioning to know your learning style. No matter how great your professors are, if your mind is not in the proper state to absorb all of the lessons, it would be useless. One basic question to ask is whether you are a morning person or a night person. I'm not sure if this is possible, but just in case you don't know yet, I suggest you become a morning person because, the world generally starts in the morning and classes are generally held during the day. If your classes are held during the opposite time your mind can absorb lessons very well, I suggest audio recording the discussions or lectures of your professor and then listen to them during your most productive time. But before you do so, please ask permission from your professors and use the recordings for personal and learning purposes only. Do not share or distribute the recording outside of your personal use. One more thing, I strongly suggest you take down notes. Do not rely on your memory. Lessons taught in BSA are like aliens to your ears the first time you hear them. So please take down notes. Tip number 2 is to review or study. This is actually not a tip. As a student, in fact, this is your responsibility. But I'm going to share with you some review or study tips. Number 1 is to make a schedule or timetable. I understand BSA can be overwhelming. There would be times when you'd be bombarded with simultaneous and or consecutive quizzes or exams, so you should know what to prioritize. In making a schedule or timetable, I suggest prioritize reviewing for the earliest exam. If you have more than one exam coming up in 2 days, prioritize reviewing for the subject you are least confident with. Do not risk failing an exam just because you want to perfect or excel in the other. Of course, you can excel in both. But we're talking about having 2 different exams, one you're good at and one you're bad at. You have to focus on the exam that needs more help or a miracle. Char! Another thing to consider is to prioritize your major subjects. Note that your 6-unit subjects have more impact on your grades than your 3-unit subjects. However, do not take your minor subjects for granted. Remember that your goal is to survive BSA, and BSA includes both major and minor subjects. Number 2 is to choose quality review materials. If your professor is the examiner, review your own notes. If your professor is not the examiner, review the notes of your friends who are in the examiner's class. Although this sounds easy, in reality, it's not. Because in reality, the exams are not as simple as what your professors teach you, diba? In the first place, the lessons are not even simple and easy to understand. If we're talking about your minor subjects, reviewing your own notes, your peers' notes, and official textbooks might be enough. However, for your major subjects, they won't suffice. So my tip is to be resourceful, especially for your major subjects. Read lessons from other popular textbooks and review materials or handouts. I tell you, they can be your lifesaver in terms of surviving BSA. It can also be helpful to join various Facebook groups that promote sharing is caring. However, do not overwhelm yourself by having so many review materials or handouts. Chances are you can't read them all, you can't solve them all. Quality over quantity. Also, strike a balance between reading the theories, lessons, or standards and solving problems. Do not skip reading the theories or standards. Admittedly, it's so hard to dissect and take them in. But at least, try to read them and understand them before jumping to solving problems. Remember that problems in the academic sense are formulated by examiners to check if you understood the underlying standards or theories well, so you should not skip reading the theories. However, do not spend so much time trying to understand the standards or theories, because sometimes you get to understand them better once you try solving problems. Solve as many problems as you can, but do not skip the theories. Solving problems can help you understand the how, but ultimately, knowing the why is equally important. Also, speaking of solving, please have a quality calculator, something that won't malfunction while you are in the middle of an exam. Number 3 is to summarize. Whether you are reading or solving, make summary notes that will serve as your personal reviewer. I advise you make them as simple and relevant as possible. It might help to write them on something different from your usual notebooks. Differentiate your normal notes from your review notes. You could perhaps write them on index cards. It's also good if you can make them as handy as possible for convenience purposes. Your review notes would be very helpful not just for your immediate exam but also for comprehensive exams coming up in the future. Number 4, clarify. Aside from making review notes, write down or take note of questions that you can't answer on your own. Then seek help from your friends, from your professors, or you can even ask your seniors or those who are higher than you. Might as well ask tips from the latter too. They have survived a year closer to graduation, so they could surely give you valuable tips based on their experience. As much as possible, seek answers to your questions. Don't let too many questions left hanging in your mind. And ready or not, you have to face your exams. Ready or not. Tip number 3, before answering, have a general overview of the exam. Browse through all the pages just so you could have an idea and somehow assess how you can finish the exam within the allotted or limited time. Answer first those that you find comfortable answering or those that will give you a higher probability of answering correctly. Tip number 4, be vigilant. Sometimes there will be questions in your exam that seem so easy. Sometimes it's just really easy, but sometimes there's a possibility that there's a trick behind it. So be vigilant. For example, check what prepositions are used. Decreased by is different from decreased to. Also, whether an item is easy or hard, you might want to ask yourself this question. What is the purpose of this question or problem? Imagine your professor's motives why such items are included in the exam. Sometimes it works. Tip number 5 is to try working back. Ideally, when you're confident, you start with the problem, work your way, come up with an answer, and check if your answer is one of the choices. However, when you're facing a difficult problem, your alternative is to work backwards. Working back means you start from the choices and work your way back to know how each choice is computed. Your goal is to know whether the how supports the theory or standard related to the problem. Note though that some examiners are witty. They would provide calculated choices that would make you confused. During such instances, what will save you is either luck or your knowledge of the standards or theories. When you receive your exam and or score, tip number 6 is to know your mistakes and work on them. This prevents you from keeping on doing the same mistakes in the succeeding exams. Finally, tip number 7 is to distress, unwind, and reward yourself. I told in my previous vlog that BSA can make you look ugly. But do not let BSA make you 100% unhappy. After having a stressful exam, go out with your friends, unwind, and reward yourself for making it through. You deserve to be happy. And that's it. I hope that you can apply these tips so you could pass your exams and ultimately survive BSA. As a BSA student, I know that you are struggling. Yes, BSA is hard. But you know, many have already surpassed it. You can too. So again, this is Sel. Thank you for watching and I wish you good luck. Ay, ulit. Ay, 1, 2, 3, go. At this point, I think it's ulit. Yeah. Bye. 1, 2, 3, go. Yan. 1, 2, 3, go. But if quantity. Oh, ay, mali. 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, go. Solve as many problems. 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, go.